All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the uh, makeup orientation for our new international students. I know many of you either had arrived late or for whatever reason did not attend the first orientation. So we're sorry you missed it because it was a lot of fun, a lot of people, and a lot of food. But nonetheless, we're glad you're here because we will be covering very important immigration information today. So please pay attention and take notes if you need to. This is really for you to understand and maintain your status as an international student. So we are starting just a few minutes after 11 o'clock today. We do have this scheduled until 2 p.m. However, we do hope to finish earlier than that. We'll see, how many questions there are at the end. But there will be plenty of time for questions, and we'll go through that in just a minute. So today, myself, Amy Sub, I'll be presenting with Andrew Pitts. So I am the Assistant Director of the Office of International Services, and Andrew here is the International Student Advisor. All right, so let's move to the next slide here. All right, so for those of you who are present in the room with us today, there are bathrooms just down the hallway. And if you're hungry and you brought lunch, feel free to eat in the room. We will be going through two main sessions. The first is Immigration 101, which is all about maintaining your status. Then Immigration 102 is about work authorization while you're a student and when you graduate. So these are all very important items for you to be aware of. And we hope to, for this session to be very informative for you. At the end, as we said, there will be questions. However, throughout the presentation, you can put your questions in the chat box. And after Immigration 101, we'll take a look at those questions and answer them. And then after Immigration 102, we'll answer those questions, and we can open it up for you to unmute yourself at the very end to ask questions as well. All right, so who are we? So this is the Office of International Services. We have 5 full-time staff members. So Kara Johnson is the director, and she is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th from the left or the 3rd from the right in the photo. Then there's myself, Amy Sub, the assistant director. I'm the 2nd from the left. There's Andrew Pitts, who is the 2nd from the right, International Student Advisor. And then we have Shelley Tequesta, who is the 3rd from the left, and Melissa Hill, who is right in the middle. And they are both the foreign credential evaluators. You probably interacted with them at some point while you were applying to GSU because they handle the international admissions piece. Whereas Andrew, he is helping out more with the advising while you're a current student. Kara Johnson and myself are also DSOs, and we assist with the international student advising as well. And then we have our student workers. If you come to our office, you'll see our student worker at the front desk. So we have Monica Kadumo, who is on the bottom right, and Sunil Kumar Devarakonda, who's on the bottom left. And then we have Alexis Robinson, who will be joining us this week. We also have a graduate assistant, Bilal Khan, who is on the left side of the group photo. So just so you can see our faces, we did have Sina working with us, who's on the right, and he is currently working for the Center for Student Engagement and Intercultural Programs. So you will still see him around. We also have an international student club that we want you to be aware of. This is a great opportunity for you to, interact with other international students and domestic students who are interested in learning about other cultures. And we have a really great team here. Bilal Khan is actually the president. Giovanna Koldzik is our vice president. Sina is the treasurer. Manjusha is the PR rep, and Monica is actually the social media chair for this, and I am the club advisor. We do have some really fun events coming up. We have Indian temple visit next Tuesday, sorry. And many people signed up for that already. They will be also getting some Indian food after the temple visit. But what we really hope you participate in is the Dandiya night, which is coming up on October 15th, so a week from Friday. And it'll be in the evening from 5 to 8 at GSU. It's a great opportunity for you to come out, wear your best, cultural outfit. It is an Indian festival. We are going to have the Dandiya sticks that you can dance with. We'll have music, we'll have food, and it'll just be a really great opportunity for you to come out and have fun with each other and learn about each other's cultures. So stay tuned for more events, but you can definitely join ICO. So it's called the International Cultural Organization through Jaguar Connection, which is located on Blackboard. There'll be also international cooking lessons coming up. So hope you stay involved with us. All right, so at this point, we are going to start talking about the immigration details. I'm going to hand it over to Andrew to do the first half of this presentation. As we mentioned, listen carefully. We will ask a few questions at the end just to quiz you on your knowledge, and you'll have a chance to respond in the chat. So hopefully you can participate in that and get some answers right. Nonetheless, I will pass it to Andrew now to talk about Immigration 101.
Hello, everyone. So first, we're going to talk about where OIS, Office of International Services, is located on campus. Right now, we are located temporarily in the A building in room A2150. Our hours are Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5. You can reach us by phone, email. You can check out our website for information. And we're also on social media, so you can check us out on Facebook and Instagram at OIS@GSU. Normally, we are actually located in the GMT building, which is actually, if you're looking at this map here, it's actually just to the left of the A building. We will be relocating back there, probably at the beginning of next month, but we will send out an announcement when that happens. All right, so first we're going to talk about how to interact with OIS. We do commit to a 3 to 5 business day processing time for any requests. And as mentioned before, our hours are 8:30 to 5. So if you're emailing us, if you're calling us, we'll be responding during that time. So if you have any questions, feel free to email your question to ois@govst.edu. Requests are all submitted through the OIS portal, and you can request an in-person or virtual appointment with an OIS staff member. You want to make sure to keep your appointment and be on time. We are very busy in the office, so if you are late, we might not be able to keep that appointment. For dropping off or picking up any documents, no appointments necessary. Feel free to stop by OIS, and you're in the front office with your student ID. All right, so first you can contact us at 708-235-7611. That's our main office number. We will be answering that between 8:30 to 5. If there are any true life-threatening emergency calls, you want to call 911 or campus police. Otherwise, you can call the OIS main phone line. If OIS is closed, you can call the GSU switchboard. They can contact an OIS staff member. Generally, an emergency is medical or any like sickness, if you need to depart the US suddenly, or if you do get contacted from DHS or ICE. All right. If you'd like, I can give you a couple minutes here. Make sure you put in this contact information in your phone. All right, well, we'll continue on here. All right, so we'll talk about how OIS will interact with you. First, you want to make sure you're checking your GSU student email account. If there's anything important, any like announcements or events or anything specific to your own case, we'll be sending an email through to your GSU account. There's also the OIS portal. That's where we will process all your requests and give any feedback on your requests, and that's at oisportal.govst.edu. There's also the OIS website. We will also post any important announcements and information there. Then there's also the OIS Facebook and Instagram pages, and then there'll also be flyers on the OIS bulletin boards in the main building. One second here. Okay. All right, so this is the main page of our website. It's govst.edu/OIS. And then here you'll see the OIS portal. So it's the oisportal.govst.edu. Here you'll see a few spots we have marked. There's the student login section. That's where you'll log in to continue any requests that you have started. On the left side, you'll see the current international students. You can click there for any general information and or to start a request. Or you can also do that in the bottom right corner where it also says current international students. Once you're in the portal, there are various options to create a request. For example, there's like employment options. So if you're applying for CPT or OPT, you'll be going through the links provided here to start those requests. All right, so also we're going to mention some of the important offices at GSU that you'll be interacting with. Each one does have a different purpose and role. First, of course, we have the OIS. Here you can talk to us about immigration issues, traveling, any cultural events. If you need to talk about your study plan, transfer credits, or prerequisite courses, you'll need to work with your academic advisor. With the registrar's office, you'll talk to them about your academic record, any transcripts or diplomas, anything regarding course registration, your graduation application, or regarding immunizations. And then you'll talk to student accounts regarding your billing statement, your tuition payment, and any international wire transfers. All right, so now we're going to talk about some of the admissions documents that we still might need from you. If your admission letter states you have a requirement to submit any official documents, please do so as soon as possible. You'll need to submit those to Shelly Tequesta and Melissa Hill, who are currently located in the registrar's office. You'll just go to the registrar's office, ask for Melissa or Shelly. Once we go back to the GMT, starting hopefully in the beginning of November, we'll all be back in the same office. So there will be a hold on your student account until those documents do get turned in, and that can affect class registration for future semesters, which also can have an impact on your immigration status. And so for the immunizations, these are required by Illinois state law. If you haven't already done so, you need to upload the documents in the MedProctor system. If you are missing any immunizations, you may be able to get them at the Student Health Center. Okay, and then the health insurance. So that is required for all international students. You will be enrolled automatically in a policy from Gallagher Student Health and Special Risk. There are only a couple circumstances in which you could be considered for a waiver, and that's if you're a dependent of someone else in the U.S. that already has coverage. So, for example, a child or a spouse. If you're on athletics team, you'll be purchasing different insurance. In both cases, the policy does need to meet GSU's coverage requirements. All right, next we're going to talk about the immigration documents. So first we're going to talk about CVIS, which is the federal database used by Department of Homeland Security, or we say DHS, schools are required to keep all of the students' information updated in the CVIS record. I-20s are generated through this system. So anytime you submit a request like for a reduced course load, or if you're extending your program, CVIS will generate a new I-20, which we will then notify you to come retrieve. And then also the SEVP portal that gives students on OPT access to update some limited information in the CVIS record. All right, so first document we'll talk about is the I-20. You should all be familiar with that now. You do need to keep this on you, with you at all times in a safe place. Keep an eye on your program end date, which we do have circled in the middle on the left page there. Once that date passes, and if you still need time to complete your program, unfortunately, you will not be able to extend. So if you do need to extend your program, make sure to do that before the program end date. In the top left corner, you'll see that's your CVIS ID. Then on the bottom of that first page is where your signature is required. And then on that second page there, that is actually the second page of your I-20. In the middle there that we have circled, that is where we will provide a travel signature. So if you are traveling internationally, please see an OIS member, come to the office if you do need a signature. So next is the F1 visa. So that's actually a stamp in your passport that's used to enter the US. It can expire while you're here, and that's okay. And it cannot be renewed while you are still in the US. If it is expired, you do need to renew in your home country before attempting to re-enter the US. You need to make sure to plan sufficient time because it can take a little while to process a new visa. And as you can see on this image here, there's a few spots circled. So on the right side there at the top, there's the F1 that's circled. So you want to make sure your visa says F1. And then on the bottom left there, we have the M circled. So that means multiple entries. So that means you can enter the US multiple times on that same visa. And then the next circle is the expiration date. So as long as that is not expired, you can keep using this visa to enter the US. Next is the I-94, which is your arrival and departure document. It proves your lawful entry on a student visa. Most of your benefits will require the most recent I-94. It is available for printout from U.S. Customs and Border Protection, or CBP, right on their website. In the bottom left corner here, you can see an example of what the I-94 looks like. I should be familiar with it already since you did have to submit that for the check-in, but we can go over it a little bit here. So where it says class of admission, you want to make sure that says F1. And then the admit until date, the D/S, that means duration of status. So that means you have that F1 and throughout your program dates on your I-20. And those dates can change depending on if you need an extension or if you graduate early. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Amy here to talk about maintaining status.
Thank you, Andrew. Yes, and one more thing to add about the I-94. Every time you re-enter the US, you'll have a new I-94 with the new re-entry details. So just so you're aware of that. All right, so maintaining your status, this is really important. I feel like of all the things we're going to talk about today, maintaining your status is really essential because you do not want to fall out of status. So who is responsible for maintaining your status? You are, all right? We are here to help. So the Office of International Services is here to help. The first thing is we're doing the orientation for you so you understand how to maintain your status. If you have questions about it, you can reach out to us. And, we try to stay on top of students when we can, but we can't always stay on top of every student. So that's why you need to know your program end date, and if you need an extension or whatever it may be. So we'll talk today about what maintaining status means. And, we work in this field, so we can provide guidance based on current regulations. but we cannot provide legal advice. So we do our best knowing what we know to guide you, but you are the one who will make decisions about your, your status or your record. And if you ever feel like you need legal advice, then you're always welcome to consult an immigration attorney. The environment can change quickly. So we saw with COVID, regulations changed, and sometimes they're in your benefit and sometimes they're not. So it just really depends on what's going on. If it's something very important that you need to know, we'll let you know what the new regulation is. But if you hear that there's been changes, you can always consult us and we can let you know what that is. Okay, so really the first thing to maintaining your status is checking in with us. So you've all checked in already, so congratulations, you got that part down. And you submitted your, passport, your visa, your I-94 and your I-20, and your US address, because we also need that for you to check in properly. Now, if you change your local address or phone number at any time, you do need to report that to the registrar's office. There's a form. You can access the form through the OIS portal or through the registrar's office, but it's a change of student information form. And you'll need to do that within 10 days of the change. That way we'll have your current address and phone number on record at all times. This is very important. Excuse me, later on, when you graduate, if you're applying for an H-1B or whatever it may be, they may look at when you reported things and if it all aligns. You want to make sure if your record is audited at any time that you've done everything properly. For every new semester, you'll want to keep a copy of new documents. So for example, if you make any updates to your I-20, make sure you keep all of your I-20s, all of your original I-20s that you've ever received, because later you'll need to access them. You may need to send copies for when you apply for OPT or for your H-1B or whatever status you may change to. And notify OIS of address changes, but also program changes. So if you decide to change your program, usually you'll do that with your academic advisor and the new department that you're working with, but let us know too so we can update your I-20. Your I-20 should always be up to date and accurate. So if you find anything right now that is not correct, let us know. We'll work with you on updating it. But definitely in the future, if there's any changes, you always want to make sure it reflects the reality. All right, so a big part of maintaining your status is full-time enrollment. So this means, and you'll see in the little graph here, full-time if you're, if you're in ESL, it's 21 contact hours. If you're getting your undergraduate or bachelor's degree, you need to have at least 12 credit hours. If you're doing your graduate degree or your master's degree, at least 9 credit hours. And if you're doing your doctoral degree, at least 6 credit hours. Every semester, fall and spring, you need to be taking a full course load. And summer is optional. So you do not need to take classes in the summer unless it's your final semester, okay? So some people may decide they just don't want to take classes in the summer, and that's okay. Maybe they want to go home and stay with family. That's fine. If let's see, if you decide to take classes in the summer, since it is optional, they can be all online, just so you know. Now, the regulations right now are different. Normally, pre-pandemic, you can only take one online course that counts towards full-time enrollment. So that means if you're a graduate student and you need to take 9 credit hours, that's 3 courses typically. Only 1 course can be online. Right now, it's like the opposite. Because of the pandemic, the government doesn't want to require you to take all or as many in-person classes. So right now, you're just required to have one in-person class, and you can take 2 online classes. Now, that could change for the spring. So once it's time to start registering, we'll be in touch with you. Or if you, for some reason haven't heard from us yet, then reach out to us to just confirm how many in-person classes you need for the spring. So this is very important. We do check, and we try to communicate with the academic departments, but it is your responsibility. You also must remain registered full-time for the entire semester. So don't think, okay, well, I'm enrolled full-time right now, and then later on, I'll drop a course. That's not okay. You need to be full-time the entire semester. All right, so there's something called a reduced course load, or RCL. And this is an opportunity for you to take less than full-time during a semester. Now, you do need approval before dropping below full-time enrollment. And in order to get approval, you will submit a request for a reduced course load in the OIS portal. And your advisor will need to approve the request before it comes to OIS. And then we will take a look, and if it looks okay, we can approve it. But there's really very few situations where you can request this. So we'll talk about those in more detail. So the acceptable RCL reasons are listed here. Now, of all of these on the list, really the most common one is when it's your last term of study. Okay, so let's say you've been full-time your entire degree program, and you're in your final semester, and you only have 2 classes left. Well, that's a pretty easy one. We can approve you to just take those 2 classes as long as your academic advisor says that you just need 2 classes to graduate. However, if you need to kind of plan with your academic advisor what classes you're going to take when, because sometimes classes are only offered in the spring and they're not offered in the summer, or vice versa. And if you don't plan in a good way, then maybe there's a semester before your last semester that you only can take 2 classes towards your degree. And unfortunately, that would not qualify for you to take only 2 classes. In that case, you would have to take a 3rd class that does not count towards your degree in order to maintain your full-time status. So that's an unfortunate situation because you don't need the class and you'll have to pay for it. So try to, think ahead with your academic advisor of which classes you need so you don't find yourself in that situation. Luckily, it does not happen too often, but it could happen. All right, so if you're a doctoral student and you have qualifying exams, you could also be, request a reduced course load. If you're doing a thesis or a dissertation, usually that's also related to doctoral work, and that would qualify. Now, if you're having academic difficulties, you may be able to request an RCL. Now, these listed here can only be used once, and they're usually your first semester. So if you have initial difficulty with the English language or reading, you may be able to qualify. Now, it's a little tricky because you did show your English scores and they were good enough to enter the program, but if for some reason that is your situation, let us know and we can look into it some more. Maybe you're not familiar with the American teaching methods and that's really thrown you off. Let us know if that's the situation and we can see. These really are not very common, but they are an option here. So yeah, if that's your difficulty, we'll take a look at it with you and see if that's a good enough reason in your case. Another one is improper course placement. This one is also even more rare because That means your academic advisor was the one to put you in the wrong course. I haven't seen this happen, but if that's your case, once again, let us know and we'll take a look at the details. All right, so some other ones are medical condition. Maybe you have a sudden medical condition that does not allow you to take a full-time course load. So we would need supporting evidence from your doctor and possibly some other items to be able to make a decision on that. And the last one is concurrent enrollment. That is a situation where maybe you are taking a class at another institution and you're taking maybe 2 classes here and 1 at another institution. So here you wouldn't be full-time, but you would be full-time overall. So kind of a complex situation, but it is possible. So some unacceptable reasons for an RCL are the following. Financial concern. So before you came here, you did have to show proof of financial support for at least your first academic year. And so unfortunately, that would not be a reason to drop below a full course load. If you want to delay your graduation due to the job market, that's also not acceptable. So, you know, I would say to not, you cannot do that. You know, I suppose if you want to graduate at a later date, you can consider not taking classes in the summer. But if you want to graduate sooner, then you can take classes throughout the summer. Fear of failing grades is not a reason either. So you do need to keep your full course load and just be a good student, stay on top of your coursework. As I mentioned earlier, if your required courses are not offered or they're canceled, unfortunately, you would have to take a course that you don't need in order to maintain full-time status. And if you're on academic probation, so that's if you are not getting good grades and you're on academic probation, you do need to still take full-time course load. Okay, so maintaining status with regards to making academic progress. You need to achieve satisfactory grades and an overall GPA to make normal progress and complete your program of study. So if you are a graduate student, that means you need to make at least a B average or a 3.0 in all of your courses and your overall GPA. So keep that in mind. If you're an undergrad student, there's a little bit more flexibility. I believe you need at least a 2.0, but I would always double check with your advisor to ensure what that is. You know, we want you to do well. It's in your benefit to do a good job and learn and keep a good GPA. Stay in communication with professors, academic advisors, and OIS with any concerns. So the academic system here is maybe a little different than what you're used to. The professors are very approachable. You may have noticed in class, they like to engage the students. Maybe you have little projects. It's not just lecturing at you. And all professors have office hours, which means they're available to talk with you. So I would say, you know, it's good to meet with them, especially if you are not acing the course. If you're not like doing absolutely amazing and you don't need to get to know your professor at all, okay, maybe you can, you know, step back and not reach out. But if at any point you you know, aren't getting the grade that you want, or you're struggling with the information and you just need more help, or you want to ask if you can get extra credit, or if there's any way you can boost your grade, all of these are good reasons to reach out to your professor, let him know who you are. I mean, it's good if he just knows who you are, especially if you're taking an online course. It's hard to get to know your professors or for them to get to know you. So I'm sure you can arrange a virtual meeting or an in-person meeting, and they're here to help you. So whatever it is you're struggling with, they will do their best. They should do their best to help you understand the material better and guide you through whatever it is that you're struggling with. And as I mentioned, extra credit, maybe, if you didn't do good in the first exam or you missed an assignment, you can ask, is there anything I can do to make up for these points that I missed? And hopefully they'll have something for you to at least show to them that you're working hard and you're doing your best to be a good student. All right, so what if your professor tells you to drop a course due to academic concern? All right, one thing you need to know is that there's a big difference between your professor, who's, strictly speaking academically, and then there's your immigration status. So they do not understand all of the requirements for international students. So if any of your professors tell you to drop a course, talk to OIS first. Um, yeah, you just obviously if you drop a course and you're under enrolled, that will put you out of status. So we definitely don't want that to happen to you. Fear of failing or getting a bad grade is not accepted by USCIS. So it's not just GSU, it's USCIS that is not going to accept that as an answer. Speak with your professor about taking an incomplete for the course or finish anyway and repeat it later. So what does that mean? All right, let's say you're getting a bad grade and maybe you're going to either, well, if you get anything at the graduate level below a B, you would have to retake the class. So either you take a bad grade and repeat the class later and get a better grade next time. Or you can talk with your professor about taking an incomplete. This means that when it's the end of the semester, they're not going to give you a grade yet. They're going to give you a little bit more time to maybe do an extra assignment or do something to help you get a better final grade. And in the case of a graduate student, help you get a B and pass the class. So there are some options for you if you are, getting below what you need to be getting. All right, so leave of absence or withdrawing from GSU. If you do need to take a leave of absence or withdraw from GSU, talk to an OIS advisor, talk to your academic advisor, because it's, once again, you're looking at the immigration side of things, and then you need to look at the academic side of things. Where will that put you with your degree completion? And also, depending on when you need to leave, maybe you can switch your course from being in person to virtual if you're going to be back home for a while. Maybe there's assignments you can work with your professor on completing. But if you're past the add drop deadline, you'll be responsible for paying the tuition and fees. So you want to do what you can to complete the courses that you already registered for. Don't leave without informing us. You'll want to follow emergency procedures covered earlier to inform OIS after hours if necessary. So, we may need to make some adjustments to your CVIS record if you do leave the country for longer than a certain amount of time. If it's just a week or two, okay, then it's probably fine. But if you're going to leave for a longer period, we may need to adjust your status. Now, so the student, the Office of International Services, your academic advisor, the registrar, and student accounts, we all need to work together in a withdrawal situation. So clear communication is important. Just get in touch with us. We mentioned earlier address update. So we always need to have your current local residence address and phone number. So not just a mailing address, but the place where you're actually living and sleeping. So make sure we have that and that it's up to date. And you will report the change of address to the registrar and OIS within 10 business days of moving. So it actually gives you 2 weeks when you're counting business days, right? And we do have the GSU database. There's one that's like GSU, and then we have the OIS portal, and then there's CVIS. So they're all different, but they do communicate with each other, and we want to make sure that everyone has the same information. All right. Now, failing to maintain status. This is also called being out of status. This is what you want to avoid at all costs. This happens if you do not follow the regulations or you do not make academic progress. If you fall out of status, you will be accumulating unlawful presence in the US. You don't want that. That will be on your record. If you want to do anything in the future, they'll see that you were here illegally. So if you do fall out of status because maybe you just made some sort of mistake, maybe you didn't check in with us, maybe you forgot to extend your program and your record ended, whatever it may be, you will need to either request reinstatement, which can take about a year for you to get your status back, but it would allow you to stay in the US and study, but it doesn't allow you to do anything else. It also does cost a few $100s, or you can travel home, but you would have to leave the US right away and then apply for a new visa. So at that point, you may need to wait for the next semester as well. So if you do fall out of status, you could lose eligibility for benefits such as OPT, work authorization. You could also be denied visa or US entry. You could also be deported. So please do not get yourself in this situation if you can avoid it. All right, so I mentioned maybe your program ends. You want to pay attention to the end date on your I-20. That is the official program end date for your program. So when you started GSU, if you're a graduate student, you probably have an I-20 that is good for 2 years. If you're an undergraduate student, your I-20 might be good for 4 years. In any case, always know the end date on your I-20. And you always want to make sure you take some sort of action before that end date passes. So if an extension is needed, you'll want to apply for an extension through the OAS portal to OAS before the program date passes. It's very easy for us to extend it before it passes, but once it passes, we can't. We can no longer access your record. You will need to provide new funding documentation and get academic advisor approval if you are extending your program end date, which means that, maybe you just need some extra time for whatever reason to complete your program. Usually it's another semester. It could be another year. It just depends. But as long as you have your academic advisor approval and you have the funding to show it, it should be no problem for us to extend your program. Now, here are some things that you should do before the grace period ends. Okay, so grace period. Grace period is once your program end date passes, you have 60 days to take action. What can you do in those 60 days? You can complete your program and return home. Okay, so you've got 60 days to leave the US. You can apply for OPT, which is the work authorization that we'll talk about a little bit later. You can start a new academic program. So maybe you decide, maybe you got your undergraduate degree and now you want to get your graduate degree. Maybe you got your graduate degree, you want to go for a doctoral degree, or maybe you decide you want to get another master's. So whatever it may be, you can start another program, or maybe you transfer to another institution and do another program, or maybe you will change your status. So that could be applying for H-1B or whatever status that there are many out there. H-1B tends to be the more common one, but it just depends on your situation. We have students, maybe they get married and they change their status that way. So, all right, so we're going to talk about travel, and we're getting close to the end of the first session here. So just so you know, we will be answering questions shortly, and then we'll take a little break before we go into the second session. All right, so travel within the US, you do not need a travel signature. The travel signature is actually on the second page of your I-20, which you may remember from earlier, but if you do not have a travel signature on your I-20 already, make sure you get one from OIS before you travel. And our signature on the I-20 is good for 1 year. So if you already know you'll be traveling soon, you can come to our office and get a travel signature. Only certain staff members can sign it. So all OIS staff can sign your I-20. And so it's required for all international travel. If you are within the US, you do not need it. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind is that Canada and Mexico are considered, they're, even though we're connected by the border, they are another country. So you will need the travel signature. Puerto Rico is a US territory. So technically you would not need the travel signature, but I mean, it doesn't hurt just to get it, just to have it. But you would not need it for Puerto Rico. Now, let's see. If you are traveling, normal travel documents to carry with you and not in your checked luggage, make sure you have them on you because you need to show them when you're going through, border control, or even, if you're asked to show anything while you're going through security, you want to make sure you have all of your important documents on your person. You'll need your passport, which is valid at least 6 months. You'll need your valid US visa. So make sure it's not expired. As Andrew mentioned earlier, if you exit the US with an expired visa, you need to renew your visa before you re-enter the US. The visa can expire while you're in the US, but only when you leave and try to come back, you're going to need it to be valid. As I mentioned, I-20 with the valid travel signature, and then additional documents. If you are on OPT, you will need to show when you travel. All right, so a quick summary of how to maintain your status. Check in each semester with any changes, enroll full-time in required semesters, or file an acceptable RCL, reduced course load, make academic progress, and update your address within 10 days of change. So hopefully you'll all remember these. And okay, so what we're going to do is we'll stop sharing for a moment here. And we're going to take a look, see if there's any questions. Oh, okay. Looks like there are no questions yet. If you have a question right now, feel free to put it in the chat box or unmute yourself. We'll give you just a minute or two. There will be time for questions at the end as well. Okay, while we wait, maybe there are no questions yet. So we're gonna just ask a couple questions here. And we'll have you put in the chat box. This is really just for fun. There's no prizes or anything, but to test your knowledge. So the first question is, where is OIS temporarily located? Is it A, GMT 168, B, A2150, or D, or C, D2100? So GMT, okay, A, GMT 168, B, A2150, or C, D2100? Yes, that is correct. So we have someone in the room and a couple people in the chat that the correct address right now is A2150. Thank you all. And do you want to do?
Yeah, okay, so this one shouldn't be too difficult, but we'll see because it is pretty important. Who is responsible for maintaining your status? A, GSU, B, OIS, C, U, or D, DHS? Yep, that is correct. We're getting some answers here. C, It is you. You are responsible for maintaining your own status.
Great, thank you. All right, so we'll do another one here. All right, this one's a little trickier. So, what should you do if your visa expires while you are in the US? Should you A, exit the US immediately, B, exit the US within 15 days, or C, renew your visa next time you re-enter the US? So what should you do if your visa expires while you are in the US? Exit the US. Okay, A, exit the US immediately. B, exit the US within 15 days. Or C, renew your visa next time you re-enter the US. Oh, all right. All right, looks like we've got a little bit of clarification to do. So when it comes to your visa is sort of like your entry into the US. And it's okay if it expires while you're in the US, but you will need to renew your visa next time you re-enter the US. Okay. So that is good to know, because don't freak out if your visa expires while you're here, but just be sure you know if you do exit the US and you need to return, that you give yourself plenty of time to make that visa appointment and get that renewed.
Yeah, and also as a reminder too, what you really want to pay attention to if you're staying in the US is your I-20. Just want to make sure that does not expire if you still have more time to complete your program, or if you want to apply for additional benefits like OPT. Well, you can do that after, but you also have the option to do that before you graduate. All right, so let's look at see what we do for the next question here. Okay. How many days grace period do F1 students have after their program end date? Is it A, 90, B, 60, C, 30, or D, 120? Yep, looks like everybody's getting that right here. It is 60 days.
Good job, everyone. 60 days grace period. All right. Let's see. I think we'll do this one more. All right, this one hopefully you will get, but we'll see. All right. What is the OIS director's name? Is it A, Shelley DeCesta, B, Melissa Hill, C, Kara Johnson, or D, Amy Sube? What is the OIS director's name? A, Shelley DeCesta, B, Melissa Hill, C, Kara Johnson, or D, Amy Sube? All right. Yes, you are all getting this correct. Good job. Her name is Kara Johnson. Very good. All right. Well, thank you guys for participating. We will do another little mini quiz at the end as well. So it is it's 12:01 right now. So what we can do, we're going to take a little break. How much time should I give you? Okay, so we'll start back up at 12:08. So take a break, go to the bathroom, get a drink of water or something to eat very quickly, and we'll start again at 12:08. So don't go anywhere. We do see, that we're able to see, that you are, you know, still following along and registered in the session. So, all right, see you in a few minutes, 12:08. Thank you.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Now we're going to get started with the second part of our presentation, Immigration 102. This is primarily going to talk about work authorizations. So first, there is on-campus employment and then there's off-campus employment. As an F1 student, there are options for on-campus, off-campus with CPT or off-campus with OPT. CPT is curricular practical training, which can be done while you are a student. And OPT, or optional practical training, is off-campus employment that you can do post-graduation. But you cannot work until you have received the proper authorization. So first we're going to talk about the on-campus employment. So you must be registered full-time to be eligible for the on-campus. You must be in good academic standing. Make sure you're not on academic probation. Unfortunately, international students do not qualify for the federal work study. So as you can see on the left-hand side here, you can search for on-campus jobs through the Jobs for Jaguars, which is powered by Handshake. You can find that through the Career Services webpage. And through those postings, some of those might say federal work study only. So unfortunately, as an international student, you would not be qualified to apply for those jobs. Also, as an international student, you are limited to 20 hours per week. That's a government and a GSU rule. And GSU only allows you to have one on-campus job at a time. Next is the curricular practical training, or CPT. This is usually for internships or co-ops. You are eligible for CPT after you have completed one academic year. That only includes the fall and spring semesters. It doesn't include the summer semesters. And you also must be in good academic standing. The CPT does require an approval from your academic advisor and an enrollment in an internship course. You'll need to make sure to work with your academic advisor to see which course you would need to enroll in, because it can be different depending on which program you're in. Your employer must also fill out a recommendation in the OIS portal. So this means that you'll need to have a job offer before you apply for CPT. We cannot authorize any CPT without an offer. And then once you get that request submitted, we will process that and give you a recommendation on your I-20 for CPT. And then the internship must be in your field of study. And if you're working in person, it must be within 150 miles of GSU campus. But if it's remote, it doesn't matter the location. Next is optional practical training. This is OPT. As mentioned before, this is post-graduation work experience for a 12-month period and with potential to extend for an additional 24 months. You are eligible after completing 1 year of full-time study. Again, that's fall and spring semesters only. And it also must be in your field of study. Also, as we mentioned earlier, you can start applying for OPT up to 90 days before your graduation date. And you can apply as late as the last day of your 60-day grace period, but your application must be received by USCIS on that last day. And then every semester, we do offer OPT workshops. You will need to attend an OPT workshop before you can apply for OPT. All right, as mentioned before, there's the option for the 24-month STEM extension. So students who are in certain STEM majors could be eligible for an extension of their OPT. There are strict employment guidelines and reporting requirements, and you can apply as early as 90 days before the end of the 12-month OPT period. But with your STEM extension, you cannot apply during the grace period. It has to be done before your 12-month OPT ends. All right, and next we're going to talk about your Social Security number. This is the number used for employment purposes. You're eligible to get a Social Security number if you have received an on-campus job offer or any kind of off-campus authorization. So CPT, OPT, the AT is academic training for J1 students. So you'll have to take your job offer letter and go to the Social Security office. But also, you must be eligible. You must be in valid immigration status to be eligible and have been in the U.S. for at least 10 days. But you do not need a Social Security number if you're just trying to open a bank account, if you're trying to get a driver's license or a state ID or a cell phone or credit card. Though some places, some banks or some cell phone companies will try to require a social security number, then you just have to unfortunately look for a different company there. Um, all right, and then the temporary visitor's driver's license and Illinois state ID. So as mentioned before, you do not need a social security number to apply for either of these. But you can apply, you can get the rejection letter from the Social Security office. What that is a letter that says you're not eligible for a Social Security number. That is an accepted document for when you're applying for the driver's license or state ID. You must also have your I-20 for at least 1 year, have at least 6 months remaining on the I-20. If you're in a program extension situation and you can extend your I-20 before your driver's license renewal, and if you needed more time on your driver's license after your I-20 has been extended, you can go and get that extended as well at the DMV. One thing we must mention here is you need to understand the cost of driving or buying a car. So as mentioned here, there's a lot of costs associated, such as car insurance. Car insurance is mandatory if you will be driving. Any state vehicle registrations, that is also required and can cost some money. And then depending on which city you live in, they might also require registration and for parking. And so we do want to reiterate that, yeah, there is a lot of costs associated other than just buying the car. All right, I'm going to pass this over to Amy to finish out the rest of this.
Great, thank you, Andrew. And one more thing I wanted to mention about CPT is you can only work up to 20 hours during the fall or spring semester, but if you do have CPT during the summer, you could work up to 40 hours. So it's kind of a nice thing to know ahead of time. So for all of you starting right now in the fall semester, assuming you all take full course load for fall and spring, then by next summer, you could potentially apply for CPT. As we mentioned, it does have to be connected to an internship course, so you'd have to be taking at least that one course at GSU, but you could work up to 40 hours legally, so it's kind of a nice little benefit. All right, so as far as income taxes, you do need to file an income tax return with the IRS, even if you've had no income, even if you have not worked. They just want to keep track of all of the bodies in the US and who's working, who's not working. So do make sure you fill that out. It'll happen around mid-April. So in April of 2022, or before that, you'll receive some information from GSU, most likely, about filing your taxes. And if you have not worked, usually you just check a box saying I was an international student and I did not work. So it's pretty simple, but it's good to know that you are expected to do that. Yeah, so tax documents are typically mailed out in January, especially if you have worked. You should receive that information after the first of the year. And we do recommend using Sprint tax preparation. It's a really easy service, and they tend to work with a lot of international students. We cannot give tax advice. You'll see if you ask most people, will just say, I'm sorry, I can't give you any tax advice, unfortunately, because it's, it's such a, I guess, personal matter. So feel free to use Sprint tax if you do need to file. All right, some other important information. All right, so there is a difference between US federal laws and Illinois state laws. So assuming that you're living in the US, there are some laws here that may not be the same as federal laws, but laws apply to everyone, no matter where you're coming from. You are subject to the laws of, the US and of Illinois if you're in Illinois. Violating laws can affect your immigration status, so it's good to know what the laws are. However, most I feel like if you, in general, follow common sense, you should be okay, right? But there are some things that maybe you don't know, some things that are different here than they are in your home country. So the most common offenses that international students may face are the following. One is drinking alcoholic beverages under the age of 21. 21 is the drinking age. So if you're not 21 yet, you are not allowed to have alcohol. And if you are drinking, you can get a ticket or be arrested. Um, you, many pubs or bars, depending on the place, require you to be 21 to even enter the location. So, um, you know, you should have your ID with you at all times to show that you are 21. So if you don't have a state ID or a driver's license, you can have your passport. That's always a good form of ID. And if you're not 21 and you need to be 21 to enter a place, you may want to just avoid going in. Also, driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. So it's also known as DUI. So you are not allowed to drive a motorized vehicle if you've been drinking alcohol or taking any drugs. There's a very low limit to what you can have. And you can certainly look it up. I mean, typically it's, when I say like one beer. Okay, yes, it can differ by the state you're in, so be aware of that. And, whatever's in your system, it can vary depending on, okay, how strong is the drink you had, what's in your stomach, and what is your body mass index, right? So there's a lot of factors that go into it. A good rule of thumb is don't drink and drive, or do not, drive under the influence of anything. You want to make sure, you're always with a good mind, a good clear mind. Also, using legal drugs is another common offense. So, speaking of illegal drugs, we want to talk about cannabis. All right, so cannabis is legal in some states, and it's legal in Illinois since January 1st of 2020. However, it's still illegal per federal law. And your immigration status is granted by the federal government. So it's very important to know that it's not okay, even though cannabis is legal in Illinois and maybe whatever state you might be visiting, it's still illegal for you. And so you want to avoid consuming cannabis, possessing cannabis, posting on social media about cannabis, wearing any clothing with pictures of it, being around others who are in possession of or using cannabis, or working in the cannabis industry. So all of these can put your immigration status at risk. So we just want you to be very well aware of that. All right, scams. We want to talk to you about scams because there have been more and more scams across the globe, I think, especially since the pandemic. They were already around, and now I feel like it's gotten a lot worse. So be aware of scams that are targeting specifically international students. The callers could, call you and pretend to be from USCIS, from ICE, CBP, the IRS, important entities, and they have your personal information and they appear to be real. So it can be very scary as an international student to receive a call from someone saying, this is USCIS, and, whatever they want to say to scare you. Maybe they want to say, we're going to terminate your record if you don't get me some gift cards immediately. And, or, they demand money or whatever it may be. I mean, there's usually they're trying to get money in some form. So Just be aware, U.S. government agencies will never call you and demand money. That's just not something they're going to do. So if anyone calls and is demanding money, you should put up your radar and be like, wait a minute, this has got to be a scam. You can definitely just hang up the phone and report the call to OIS. Kara always says, if you're scared to hang up, give her the phone and she'll be happy to yell at the person and hang up on them. But yeah, and there's also texts and links. I know at the beginning of the semester, almost everyone I know got a text about, oh, your applicant is received. Do you want this job? Just click here and we'll mail you a check or whatever it is. And some people, they fell for it because they think, oh, great, on-campus employment. But it was a scam. So, and who knows which ways they're trying to get your information. But one way in this case is if they send you a check and you cash it, then they've got your bank information. So just be aware that there's a lot of this out there and try not to fall for it. I know if something happens, like if you get an email through GSU that's a scam or appears to be a scam, you can report it to the help desk and delete it. Don't click on any links. And yeah, just if it looks fishy, it probably is. So, okay, we're already at the next quiz. All right, the second part is a lot quicker. So hopefully you'll have some questions for us as well. But we will ask you a few questions. Let's see, we're going to stop sharing. All right, thank you everyone for sticking with us. Okay. Well, we're going to ask you a question. It's not a trick, but it's not the easiest, perhaps. The question is, where can new international students work? Is it A, off campus, B, on campus, C, at Starbucks, or D, anywhere they want? Very good. On campus. All right. On campus, B. Yes, so as we mentioned, if you're a new international student, the only place you can work is on campus. Once you've completed at least 2 semesters, fall and spring, you can also be approved to work off campus.
All right. So in order to apply for a social security number, you must have all of the following except job offer letter, be present in the US for at least 10 days, be out of status, or have valid documents like your passport, visa, and I-20. Yes, definitely. If you're out of status. So you do need your job offer letter. You do need to be present in the US for at least 10 days. And you do need to have your valid immigration documents.
Yes, good job. All right. Okay, so after completing your F1 degree program, some of your options are the following. A, apply for OPT. B, apply for another degree program at GSU. C, exit the US. Or D, all of the above. Yes. Yes, very good. It is all of the above. Good job.
All right. So this will be a fun one. From what country do most of GSU's international students come from? Is it A, Serbia, B, Nigeria, C, Czech Republic, or D, India? Yes, that is correct. Most of our students do come from India.
All right. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so this is a question about scams. What should you do if you get a call from USCIS asking for money? A, wire all of your money from your bank account to the person on the phone. B, purchase Target and Amazon gift cards and send them to the person on the phone. C, leave the country. Or D, hang up and report the call to OIS. Yell and hang up. Yes, thank you. That is correct. It is D, hang up and report the call to OIS.
All right. How soon can you apply for optional practical training or OPT? Is it A, 120 days prior to your end date? B, 90 days prior to your end date? C, 150 days? Or D, 100 days? Yeah, the answer is 90 days prior to your program end date.
Great, good job, everyone. All right. So we have the final question here. You got to listen carefully. It's a small detail. What is the name of the international club on campus? Is it A, International Student Club, B, International Culture Organization, C, Global Cultural Club, or D, International Student Organization? Right, looks like most of you, well, between those in the room and some of you on here, yes, it's ICO, which stands for International Culture Organization. So that is the student club, and if you're not a member yet, please find us on Jaguar Connection in the GSU portal and request to become a member. All right, so now what we're going to do is leave this open for questions. Feel free to unmute yourself or write something in the chat, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have. All right. Well, it sounds like most of you are good to go. I know you've started your semester. You're, hopefully staying on top of your courses. I guess I'll use this moment to just remind you about the Dandia Night. We hope to come out and wear your best cultural attire and enjoy an evening with other students and staff and maybe faculty. I mean, we're inviting the whole community, so we'll see who all comes out. But it'll be a lot of fun. I think just to get together and dress up and get some nice photos. And hopefully you'll also participate in other things that we do throughout the semester. We have International Education Week in November, where we'll be doing a lot of things. If you're interested in being part of any of the planning, or maybe you have an idea for an event, feel free to let us know, and we'll be happy to take it into consideration. All right, Andrew, anything left?
Oh, I think we're good.
All right, let me turn my video on for a second here. All right, we just want to say thanks again for everyone for being here. Hopefully this was informative for you, and let us know if you have any questions, and you know where to reach us. So, all right, thanks. Have a good day.
Bye, everybody.